Pewtercast listeners, this is Training Camp Journals with Ren Daxt, entry 13. I'm going to start off the show today by apologizing for not getting a journal to you yesterday. Things just kind of went sideways for me. Started out with meeting up with the Pewter Report guys and some fans at a local brewery. The Hazelnut Stout was terrific. Then I got a call from a friend, and by the time, sort of the day got back on track, we're pushing like 9:30. I even thought about doing it then. I got the copy down, wrote it down, but I figured by that time I'm just going to I'll go to practice today, which I did, and then I'll just sort of combine the two, especially since the practices are starting to get the same thing over and over. Like, there's really no surprises. I think the safety position's pretty much well shaken itself out. The nickel corner is down to two guys, and then and then the fifth wide receiver spot. Like, everything else is I don't want to say in stone, but those are really the last big questions. It's like nickel and wide receiver 5, and those are still really good battles. So I just want to start out telling you what happened, but here I am back today. And first order of business, I would like to wish my co-host and creator of the Pewtercast, Brent Allen, happy birthday. It was his birthday yesterday. So I saw a lot of people reach out to him on Twitter and Facebook, so that was good. And I just want to go ahead and throw my hat in the ring and the happy birthday wishes. And, of course, next time I talk to him, which will be very soon, either for the preseason game or Talking Knox, one of the two, the Instacast preseason game or Talking Knox, we'll get back at it. So let's start with what I saw. I have said before that I think the building was going to be done by the time, at least the skin, I should say, like the whole outer shell would be covered. At first I said week 1, and then I realized that was unrealistic, so I said at the end of week 2, by preseason game week 2, and it's still not done. Everyone else sort of thinks that they're making great progress. I thought it sort of stalled out, but it had rained a couple days. Not that this is a big deal or, anything's going to come of it. But, it's mostly done. They still have that hole on the backside that faces the street, so they'll be able to crane stuff in, the chairs, the field, the turf, the goalposts, all that sort of stuff. And you can see the spot where it's not skin, where the glass is going to go in, where if you've seen the artist renditionings, you can sort of sit in the stands in one corner of the building, it's glass, and through that corner you see Ray J Stadium, which I thought was a cool touch. So it's coming along. We do finally have a ending to Cleatgate. Found out, I should have wrote down his Twitter name, I apologize, but someone had tweeted at me talking about how Jerome McCoy had gotten more cleats. He got some Mortal Kombat cleats, which he was wearing the other day. Scorpion and Sub-Zero. I've seen Donovan Smith got some Power Ranger cleats, and I saw Mike Evans got some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cleats, all by the same artist. I actually saw that artist on it looked like he was at the Women of Red, I don't want to call it invasion, but, they had sort of like an expo, or they had an event at Raymond James Stadium, and they had some players talk. Allie, O.J. Howard, and Clinton McDonald. Gail Sarens emceed. Of course, Casey Phillips was there. And there was a lot of other things that you could do there, and it was set up for, for women, fans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I also saw that artist, there was a small snippet clip in there of he was there, airbrushing some more cleats. But Cleatgate is finished. That fourth pair of Gerald McCoy's cleats I could not figure out. Once again, he started off with the Hulk, then went with the Wolverine. Then he had one Batman, one Joker, one on each foot. So that was the Batman Joker set. And then you couldn't really tell at the other one. There was like fire or lightning bolts or whatever. It ended up being, I don't want to say generic, but it ended up being just like a Buccaneer, like the Buccaneer flag with flames on it. I think there was a player on there too. Or maybe it was a skull without the flag. But it was just like the flag and the emblem with flames and things like that. So there was no superhero. It was just sort of a once again, I'm sure generic's not the right word, but just a team themed Buccaneer cleat, which was the fourth one. And yeah, sorry for not writing down your name or putting it in the podcast, but thanks for getting that all taken care of. He's sort of been keeping me up to date on, he's like, did you see these cleats? Did you see these cleats? So that's been sort of fun to watch. But that's over. There was a big crowd Saturday. Now, it was Saturday, and the crowd tended to be bigger, but there were, I noticed, a lot more women. Like, there's always women there, but it seems like they're always there as a couple or a single mom, there with one of their kids or their kid. It was like sort of a treat. They're bringing their kid to practice. They want to see practice. They love Mike Evans. They love Jameis Winston. Or it just seems to be, like a married couple or a boyfriend-girlfriend type of deal. And, they sort of sit together. Today, it was like there was friends, like groups of friends of women that were all like, there were like packs of 3, packs of 4, even in, just 2. So I was wondering if that was a Saturday thing or maybe that at that Women of Red mixer, I don't think it was really, you can call it a mixer, the Women of Red event, that they sort of let them know, like, if you like this, then go out to training camp practice, because this was the first practice after that event. And if they did and sort of made an effort to, to let them know, to get there and gave them the times and everything, then it worked, because it was definitely the most women I've ever witnessed at a practice. So first out, same list of characters, QBs, minus Ryan Griffin now, but Sifo is out there, and of course Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then Jameis came out pretty quick. Alan Cross is always the first guy in the tight ends. He's out there. He starts hitting the sled by himself for a good 5 to 8 minutes before the rest of the tight ends sort of straggle out there, and they're always the first group on once again. But Godwin was out there pretty early too, right around when Cross came out. He might have came out just a little bit early, and he was shagging some punts out of the jugs machine. I don't think that he's going to be doing that. I don't know if he's just working on his hands. That's one way he does it. Or they're like, you're the emergency backup punt returner, or maybe you're the third string backup punter. Because we really don't know. It's like we have Hump, right? And then after that, you sort of have like Reedy and Huff, but we don't know if they're going to make the team. That fifth wide receiver spot, which I was sort of talking about, like it could be any of those 3 guys, or which I'll get to later, it might be more of a developmental player like Walker or Bobo Wilson. So I'll talk about that a little later. So that could be a reason why Huff's taking these punts, because since they're really not sure who that fifth wide receiver guy, you can't really count on Reedy as taking the punts or being the backup guy, but Godwin's going to make the team, so he could be sort of the emergency backup guy. Sort of Vernon Hargraves plugged in for Hump for the second half of one game, and he got a couple of he shagged a couple of punts during the game and did a good job as well. Injuries. The injuries are starting. I don't know if they're starting to mount up because they're very minimal. During training camp, they rest these guys because there's no point not to. They're not game planning. They don't need them in there for an install or for a game plan install. So there's no reason to push their body. So if they have like a bruise or even a tweak or a twinge, they're holding everybody out. But for the past 2 days, Benenach's been out. Caleb Benenach. I think he's a guard, but he's been playing a lot of tackle during preseason. Demir Dotson, which you've heard, but his MRI came back. It's a mild sprain, and he will be ready for the season. He said he could play today if he had to. It's just one of those things, like I said, like why push it? What are you going to get out of that as a Buccaneers? The only thing you can do is make it worse. So let's just let him heal. And Kevin Pamphile was out as well. He's been out for 2 days as well. So that has made the offensive starting line, starting with Donovan Smith on left tackle and going down with Donovan Smith, and Evan Smith has been filling in at guard for Kevin Pamphile, and then Ali Marpet at center, Sweezy, and then since the backup tackle behind Dot is Benenach, and he was hurt, they've been Mike Ledecky Number 70 has been filling in. Him and Wester have sort of been rotating. I saw Dirk Cutter said that him and Mike Ledecky, and Leonard Wester have been rotating. But every time I looked up, it was always Ledecky with the ones. And Cutter said just basically he's been really consistent as guard. So now we're putting him up there and just one step up the ladder. So I know way back in the way too early 53-man roster that Brent and I did on the Pewtercast, we were talking, about the sort of that one offensive lineman that we don't know of that wasn't on the team last year, like who's going to make the team. And it looks like it's going to be, as of right now, it looks like Ledecky sort of winning that race. Quan, I know everyone wants to hear about it. He laughed it off. He's not hurt. It seemed to me like he almost stopped short of telling himself, like, I just didn't want to practice anymore. And it wasn't even that bad. It was just kind of like, yeah, it's just like I was done for the day type of deal. But he sort of cut himself short and just laughed it off. He's like, yeah, no, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. So when he pulled himself out during, those goal line scrimmages today, and actually Riley Bullock got in as some starting at the mic because, a goal line, you're going to be running with your big boys. So Beckwith was playing starting Sam. He had Levante David. The first backup for Quan is Beckwith, but he's already on the field. So Riley Bullock got in there with some ones today on the goal line. And goal line defense or goal line activity, putting the helmets on and going from like the 3-yard line and going at it. They didn't. They did. They put the helmets on. They ran a lot of pass plays, sort of on the goal line situation. And when they did run the ball, it wasn't really it wasn't hard thumping. It was who could get the first initial push, and then it just kind of stayed at that. There was no really fight back. So if if the nose tackle pushed the center or the guard in the backfield, it just kind of stayed that way. They sort of started to shut it down after that. It was like whoever wins initially, and then that's how it just the play just kind of rolled with. So wasn't exciting, I was hoping, but it was still good to see they finally got some goal line. They've been doing a lot of special teams installs now. It's that point of camp, I think Cutter said after today's practice. I think it was today's practice. He said that there's only one more offensive install, which will be, I guess, coming on Tuesday because there's no practice tomorrow. Coming on Tuesday, and then it's just sort of like polishing up, I believe was the phrase he used. So that now it's just going to be repetition. So if you're almost done with offense, then that means, you got to get that special teams install in there. And they have been doing they did a lot of it at Jacksonville at the practice I saw. Before they sort of left for Jacksonville, it was starting to get heavy early in the practices on special teams installed. And they did a lot of that yesterday and today as well. So that's also one of the reasons where there's not really much to talk about. Quan had a pick yesterday. John Jackson he did have a long catch today, but it's sort of, without touchdowns or interceptions, it's sort of just the same old. Oh, look, Jerry McCoy's in the backfield. What a shocker. Oh, look, Doug Martin found a crease, big shocker. Oh, look, Mike Evans caught the ball over somebody, hey, Karam Brate made a tough catch. Things like that. It's just, now that you're seeing it every day, it doesn't seem to be as much of a big deal as you felt it was something you needed to report on. Oh, Cameron Brate had a good day. I got to go tell, the listeners that. It's just sort of expected now. And I think it's it's kind of what's happened to Chris Godwin. Not that he's not making catches, he's catching the ball. Maybe the catches just aren't as hard, or the chemistry is a little better between him and the quarterbacks, and he doesn't have to contort his body, because his body control is I think that's his why he looks so good. On passes that aren't quite there, he can still sort of half box out the cornerback and get his body into position and catch the ball, and then come down on his feet, where normal people, it would look really awkward, and they'd be falling on their shoulders or their backs, their butts. But his body control is outstanding. So I think that's one of the reasons you sort of don't hear about him anymore. Now it's just sort of expected. Finish up with the injuries. Running backs, Tyler Hansbrough, he's in concussion protocol, been out for a while. Barber was out for one of the days, but once again, no big deal. Just precautionary. Josh Robinson, the cornerback, was out. Who's been playing a lot of safety, but once again, they weren't concerned. I think today Coach Cutter said that, if we had a game this Sunday, Brent Grimes would play. Brent Grimes is obviously still out, but he said there's no reason to pull those stitches open. So, somebody who's, as good as he is and has as many snaps in the league, he can afford to miss a training camp or two. So everything seems to be fine. There was a small update on, Jaquez Smith, the defensive end. He didn't say when he was coming back, but he said that the procedure went fine and that he's on track. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. I've heard some people say that they're expecting him around, mid-season or like week 6 around there. I'm still sticking to the initial report of what Dirk Cutter said. He said weeks, not months. So months is 8 weeks to me because that's 2 months. So I was looking between like a 6-7 week injury, which would put him right around the Dolphins game, right around the opener. So if I don't hear anything by the Chicago game, then I'll sort of reevaluate that, because he could come in, maybe he starts practicing the week before the Dolphins game, or he starts practicing the week after the Dolphins game. But if there's no Jock Smith sightings, by week 2, then we're going to have to start thinking he actually might even be on the PUP list or the IR designated return before that, because they have to decide what to do with him eventually, his roster spot. But that's what I'm going with right now. Oh, and then we had some roster moves. My favorite offensive lineman, Cole Gardner, the guy that got Ryan Griffin killed during the Cincinnati game, he was cut. I found out a little earlier, I think it was through Greg Allman, his Twitter feed, that he didn't actually even play a down during the Jacksonville game. So the writing was on the wall for Cole Gardner. When he was let go, they also let go of Maurice Fleming. He was playing cornerback and safety, mostly corner, I should say, for the Bucs. Apparently, he has to have some surgery on his knee, so he was injury released. Cole Gardner was also injury released, but I didn't hear anything about his injury. And then today, those both happened yesterday. And today they let go of Quavon Hicks, who was still listed as a running back on the roster, but he was a fullback in college, and he was not with the fullbacks, the fullback / tight end room. So I guess they really wanted him at running back, but because of the injuries to the DBs, especially the corners, Javian Elliott and Robert McClain have been getting a lot of reps. I think I actually heard Dirk Cutter say that they might be getting too many, as in their quote unquote pitch count is too high right now. So not surprising. After those 3 players were released, one being a defensive back, they brought in 2 more. Mario Cooper and Vernon. I can't read my writing. Vernon Hawes, that's not right. But we also brought in a tackle, Austin Albright. That's probably not right either. I should really probably. Sorry about that. I did not. I'm looking for it right now. The real names. Yeah, so it was Mario Cooper was the one they brought in. That's when they waived Quavon Hicks, which they were really deep at running back, so you could see that for sure. I don't think he's seen the field. He doesn't even really see any reps in practice. Like when they go like 11s on 11s and 7 on 7s, he never really gets in, and neither does Blake Sims, to be honest. I've seen Blake Sims a little bit. I have not seen Hicks. I can't really remember off the top of my head of him even in the individual drills. I see him, but as far as when they're, like I said, when they're running 11 on 11s and 7 on 7s, I never see him. So he's gone. Austin Albrecht, out of Utah State. He's a tackle. they brought him in, and he was sort of a replacement the roster replacement for Cole Gardner. And then the other player is Vernon Harris. He's played a little bit. He's out of Dartmoor. So I think those two guys were sort of brought in, especially the second move, because it wasn't a swap for a swap. You let go Cole Gardner, a tackle, and they brought in a tackle. You let go Fleming, but you brought in Cooper. But this time they actually let go a running back because they were deep there, and let's face it, Quavon Hicks was not going to make the team. And they just brought in really some depth for that position, so McNichols and Elliott don't have to wear themselves out in practice getting all these reps. So it's more of a camp body move, but who knows? He might surprise some people or me. As far as the practices went, like I said, it's more the same. The drop parade does continue to go on. If somebody drops the ball, 9 times out of 10, it's Reedy, Huff, or Martino, and they're not hard catches. Now I understand. Baseball, you're gonna make an error. You're gonna boot the ball every once in a while. These people aren't machines. You're gonna miss a 2-foot putt sometimes. A layup, you're going to botch a layup, but when it seems to be happening like every day, though, it's like you don't miss a 2-foot putt every day. You don't miss a layup. They're supposed to be more rare than what I'm seeing out of these three. I still think Huff's hands are very suspect, but they're feeding him. I mean, I think they ran 3 jet sweeps with him the past couple of days. He had a good practice today, much better practice than he did I shouldn't say he had a bad practice the day before, but he just didn't show out as much as he did today. So it seems like those are the 3 guys. This is what I heard up in the stands. If you've listened to his past entries, I've sort of found the sweet spot in the stands where sort of the beat reporters, the guys that cover the team, they sometimes sit together in the stands and they discuss things. And, this is what I hear in the building. And I heard this, that there's sort of a little bit of what the Buccaneers really want to do organizational-wise with that fifth wide receiver. Seems that some people want more of an established guy, who's sort of a quote-unquote veteran who's been in the league, basically not practice squad eligible type of player. And then there's some in the building that thinks it should be a developmental player, somebody with a high ceiling, but it's not going to happen this year. You're going to have to put some time into this kid to turn him into what you think he can be. And to me, I think Jason Light always goes with the other one. He always goes with the upside, the rookie with the upside compared to the vet, like sort of like on the way down, or maybe his peak. Like this is the best he's gonna get, or someone who's older, who's was really good, but is sort of like crescending over and starting in the backside of his career, sort of like a Godster Chairless was for us last year. He would rather take the Leonard Wester to the Godster Chairless. At least that's how I feel. So we'll see. Like I said, that 5th wide receiver spot, like that's the one. And and it's what do I say? I don't want to say it's sad, but that's really, those are the 2 battles that are left, and one's for not even for a starting position. So I always remember around the 3rd game, after the 3rd game pretty much ends, everyone's just ready for football and have no idea why they have to play this 4th preseason game, which no one plays, and ends up being terrible. And a lot of the players in the field that actually play a lot, you're like, oh, well, they're going to make the team, but they're not. They're just out there basically to save the bodies of the 1st and 2nd stringers. So that 4th game for me is sort of like a lot of hogwash. I used, when I was younger, before I really started paying attention, this is a game where the guy in the bubble can make it. They've been practicing with these guys for like 3-4 months now. I'm pretty sure I think it's very rare that they go into the final preseason with these 2 guys and it's like, okay, guys, maybe they're not going to tell them, but in their head they're like, whoever has the best game out of these 2, that's that's who we're keeping. I think their mind's pretty much made up, like, going into that. Not that game doesn't, move the scale or, put them up or down on the ladder, but I think it's really rare where it's just like, okay, it's, fifth wide receiver spot, whoever does better in this game. It's more of the total grade for the 2 months that they've been with him. Let's see, stuff after practice. Keith Tandy continues to take snaps from the long snapper. He's holding for field goals, which, make yourself versatile, make yourself hard to replace. The QBs and tight ends continue. Every day they're over there working on, it looks like red zone stuff. But Howard and Jameis and Cepho Lofau are over there, with Brait and Auclair and Westbrook, and so everyone's working hard. Crosses, they're all there, they're there and they're there every practice. It started out sort of just like a Howard Brait thing, and then slowly everyone's like, well, this is going to be a real everyone sort of has a shot at that fourth, or even you could make an argument. I think Stocker makes the team. I've always said that. The reason he's going to make the team because of experience, first-year tight end coach. If Stocker's gone, Cameron Brait becomes the elder statesman, in his whopping third year of NFL football. And Stocker knows the offense inside and out and can answer sort of again. It's like having another coach in the room and having another coach on the sidelines. And, and he's a very good blocker. So I think Stocker is safe now. Just the athletic ability of Westbrook and the blocking ability of Auclair. And, I don't think those have shown enough to be able to sort of show Stocker the door. And then you got Alan Cross, who just continues to make plays. He's the smallest of all of them, probably the least athletic besides Stocker, second to least athletic of all of them. But you throw him the ball, and he's open, and he catches the ball, and, he makes plays. That's how Alan Humphreys, got on the team, and now he's a starting slot wide receiver. Get open, catch the ball. That's what Alan Cross does. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, all the tight ends seem to have sort of globbed onto this after practice thing, which is fine to see. There's lots of jug work on field 3. I can't tell if it's DBs or wide receivers or a mixture of both or running backs, but it seems that that's another thing that's sort of happening every day now. Way on field 3, where the sort of the field goal kickers and punters hang out for most of the practice, if not all the practice. The jug machine you start hearing it pumping out like, and you look up and you can see, you can't really, most of them have their shoulder pads off, so you can't really see who it is, even with, those numbers, which I love so much. Even if they had their jerseys on, it would still be really difficult because of the distance to see who's out there. But it seems to be a regular occurrence with, there's 4 or 5 players, sometimes 2 or 3, over there at the jug machines after practice and just making receptions. And then Jerry McNichols, McWeapon, he was really working on his hands with a coach who was actually throwing him the ball, and that was on field 1. While the QBs and tight ends were sort of down on one end of the field, McNichols was working on his sort of outlet. The drill was basically, and it wasn't a quarterback, it was an assistant. He would be looking left. He would simulate the snap and sort of bounce up and down his toes and look left and then make his reads. And then now it's time to dump off and check and spin around to his right and fire the ball at McNichols, who's just standing out there in the flat. And, and he was really, McNichols was really concentrating on receiving the ball properly, as in getting both hands out in front of him, getting his hands in the chest. No matter where the pass was, he was trying to get centered. If he had to take a step back, he would move his whole body and catch it, and catch it with his hands in front of his chest. If it was low, he would squat down and try to catch, with his hands in front of his chest. So he was really moving to himself, putting his body in the position to give him the best chance to catch the ball, instead of just, reaching to the right or bending over. He was really working on that. So we'll see. Screen game seems to be a lot that's going on. Going to be lots of screens to all the players, like to the tight ends, to Howard probably mostly because he's the most athletic. they're going to go to D-Jacks. Obviously, they're going to go to Hump. They're going to go to the running backs. It looks like we're going to try to, or the Bucs are going to try to get the ball into the hands of their playmakers early in space and let them, basically get out there one-on-one and see if they can make some guy miss and pick up some chunk yardage. So that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. I apologize again yesterday for sort of life not working out in the podcast world and me not getting home till late, and then everything just didn't sort of work out. But I'm just happy that it was sort of later in the practice cycle where there's really not too much to report because kind of everything's sort of are set in stone, and the drills are leaning towards the boring side. Not that practice is ever boring, honestly. I could sit and stand and watch football practice. Yay. But, there's lots of punt installs, lots of special teams installs and things like that. But it was great to see goal line. Just would have wished they would have added a little harder. There is no practice Monday, so I will see you Tuesday for entry 14. You can find me on Twitter at Ren Daxt, RenDaxt, REN_DAXT. I'm always down to talk Buccaneers football. The Training Camp Journals with Ren falls under the Pewtercast podcast family. We also have a Talking Knox show where we go live immediately after HBO airs Talking Knox, and people call in and we sort of talk about the show, what we saw, what we liked, what we didn't like. And then under the Pewtercast, the mothership, the mainstay podcast, we'll be ramping that up to once a week during the season, the main show, and then we always do an Instacast show right after Bucs games as well. Usually it's around 9 o'clock. That's what we're aiming at. I know there's a couple of night games this year, so we're going to sort of play those for ears. But for every 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock game, 9 p.m., Mixler.com. You can join in the chat room and you can listen to it live, and you're more than welcome to call in. We always tweet the number out and things like that, so follow us all there so you can keep up on what's going on. And thank you so much, everybody, and I will talk to you Tuesday. Go Bucs!